everybody, it's Dr. Curtis. I am going to give you a short video on how to rehabilitate your rotator cuff. Rotator cuff injuries are very common and get more common with age and are prevalent with a lot of sports. So let me come over here to show the anatomy chart to show you what it looks like. This is the back of your scapula here. It's comprised of three muscles, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor. And it comes along here and attaches to the tip of your shoulder right here. You can see common partial supraspinatus tear here, and a full thickness tear. Often there's calcium deposits as well as that heals up also. Okay, let's go over what causes rotator cuff injuries, tightness, and dysfunction, and I'll go over how to rehabilitate that. So the rotator cuff is an external rotator of the shoulder, like I showed you. When it contracts, it externally rotates the arm like this. Why does the rotator cuff get injured so much with throwing activity? Because it really is not involved with the concentric contraction of throwing here, but it does decelerate the arm on the backside. And so when you generate a lot of force this way, say 100 pounds of force, you actually need 100 pounds of force to slow that down. And if it's weak or tight, it will yank on this rotator cuff and give a strain, a muscle strain, and or a tear. So the way the body works is after a minor tear, it heals up. A more significant tear, it may heal up with scar tissue and possibly even some calcium deposits. So you've heard of calcific tendinitis. That's kind of the body's natural process there. Not all the time, but it's a common occurrence. So if you imagine with every strain, it lays down scar tissue and it becomes a little less flexible each time. Your dominant side is typically tighter and stronger and often less flexible. And on ultrasound, I do have a little bit of calcium deposits on that shoulder as well. So it's a little less flexible than the other. On a spectrum of rotator cuff repair, you're going to start to want to move it and get it more flexible and strong. So let's start with flexibility. This motion here is stretching, testing my internal rotators. And when we're all in our 20s, it goes to about 90 degrees right here. And normal for the rotator cuff on internal rotation, it is also about 90 degrees. I'm cheating here because my actual flexibility is about here, short of 90. So you can imagine that's why my left side is about 90 and I can internally rotate and scratch mid-scapula. This one here, my right side, gets to about here before it gets tight. There was an interesting story of a patient I once saw who was a softball player, and he came in and said he could no longer throw overhand like this. And every time he did, it strained, it hurt his arm, and he could only flick the ball sideways, kind of sidearm back to his pitcher. He was a catcher. And just a simple test of his flexibility, his internal rotators went up to about 90, but his external rotators, his rotator cuff, went to about barely neutral here. And so you can imagine every time he tried to throw the ball overhand and then the follow through, bam, he ran into his dysfunctional tightness. And probably what happened over time was he strained his rotator cuff, it healed up, lost a little flexibility, he strained it again, lost a little flexibility, and now he had this movement dysfunction. Every time he threw the ball, he would strain it because of the loss of flexibility, and to the point where it was just right here. And so for him, he could barely put his hand to his back pocket. He could barely do that. And so the flexibility exercise for him was simply grasping his hand and first pulling it across here, getting more and more flexibility to that glenohumeral joint and joint capsule. And you could even go out like this. You can see on the other side, it goes out quite far. And that could be a pure internal rotation. So you can push it out there and hold it for a count of 10 or so, and progress that higher and higher. Or you could do something like this, the towel over the back stretch, like this. Pulling it up, increasing that flexibility, and then holding it for a good 10, 20 count, and relaxing. This is the towel stretch. You can see on my left side, it can go quite far up to my mid-scapula. If you have tight internal rotators, it can be tight for various reasons. Like I said, your dominant side is usually tighter. If you had a strain or sprain in the past, it will probably be a little tighter as well. And for myself, I've got little calcium deposits on that rotator cuff tendon, so it makes it a little more inflexible. So I do have some movement dysfunction that I'm conscious of, and so when I throw, if I do throw anything, I'm conscious of not overstraining it, realizing that I've lost maybe 20% of its flexibility from left to right. So that's flexibility. Let's talk about rehab. If you did have a full-on rotator cuff repair, you're going to be in a sling next to your body in internal rotation for a good number of weeks. Once that is lifted, you can start doing pure external rotation. Sometimes we get a piece of paper and have you put it under your underarm and do this, because if you do this and the paper falls, you're actually doing the motion with your deltoid and your elbow tricep is what you're doing, and you're not actually doing pure external rotation. So this is what we do. We hold a piece of paper, and then we have the hand, thumb up is neutral. This is a neutral position. So we do this. You can do gentle range of motion like this, and then gradually increase the resistance. Sometimes we have you lie on your side and then go up against gravity this way. You can also grab a water bottle and fill it halfway, and that could be a little dumbbell for you. Most people don't have hand weights at home. And you can gradually fill the water up to higher and higher, and it's going to weigh more and you need more resistance. And so that's the best way to rehabilitate, is just progressive resistance. Here we can use a TheraTube or TheraBand, elbows next to your side. When I do this correctly, you can put that piece of paper underneath your arm and then do pure external rotation like this. And once this pure motion is doing well, we can combine motions, and I like to do diagonals. So you can do thumb in the pocket and up like you're hitchhiking. And this is a combined diagonal, combined motions. We call this the hitchhike exercise. Thumb in the pocket, and then as you come up, you're going to gradually externally rotate, getting that rotator cuff. So you're getting external rotation in different ranges of motion of your shoulder. Beginning, you could bend your elbow, keep it close to you like this. As you advance, you can extend your elbow, and it'll make it a little bit more difficult. You can also do the opposite motion, hang it overhead over the door and pull it from here down to your pocket, like that. But if your rotator cuff is the main thing that's repaired, that's the direction you need to go. Okay? So that is a simple rehab routine of gaining normal flexibility and rehabbing the strength of your rotator cuff. How long you can do the exercises for, you can always compare it to the other side. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. That was how to rehabilitate your rotator cuff and prevent it from injury. Okay, see you next time. Today, I'm going to drop my first video, and it's going to help everyone working and studying from home.